Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and hey, you're ready for the show, because today's show, it's going to be a little bit different. So, so many times on the show here, we have companies that are cybersecurity experts. We have companies on that are making the latest laptops, desktops. We have companies that make phones, televisions, talk about services, data backup, data recovery, all that kind of thing. It's, it's a regular just tech paradise. But I think this time, this show, and something that we're looking to get into more often here on Computer America, ever so often we have very different kinds of guests. And trust me, they are still technology adjacent or related. Technology is certainly used in these processes. And hey, we felt this is going to be a good mix-up and a very, very interesting show. So in just a moment here, we're going to introduce our guest, Persedo. If you want to check out what they do, persedo.com, or stick around because we're going to be interviewing the president all about what they do, how they do it. And this one is going to be about, well, I guess putting a good polish on your liquor. It's a way to refine your alcohol, and it's something that, trust me, America is a country of drinkers. Boy, are we, I was about to say enamored with it, but probably inebriated with it is maybe a better way to put it. And I think the difference between, something that's high quality and something that is just, gut rot. Hey, this is the process that I think is going to take, a lot of that to the next level. So I'm looking forward to talking about that in just a moment. But before we do, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including a show notes. After the show, we'll have a link to our guest website. We'll have a link to any articles, videos, topics that we talk about and discuss here on the program. After the show, computeramerica.com. That's really all you need to remember. While you're there, check out some of the other articles, reviews, stuff like that. New stuff should be going up here soon. We had a bit of a break with of course, the holidays. And then we were out all week long at CES. That was certainly a lot of fun, and a lot of stuff should come out from that. But now, all that being said, the preamble done, want to go ahead, introduce our guests, bring them on, and just get to talking. So, everyone, as I said before, Persedo, if you haven't heard of the company, this is going to be the one for you. We will be talking to Mr. Ricky Ford. He is the president of the company. And Ricky, how you doing? Welcome on to Computer America.
Ben, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, first things first, as we usually do, give us a bit of background on Persedo, the company. When did, how long have you been with them? And then a bit of your background and, how did you find yourself here?
Okay, I'll do that. First of all, we started, we started Persedo back about 12 years ago in 2007. But it actually started, the idea started way before then. My father had actually come up with a really nifty way of what I call aerating a distilled spirit. And he did that by building a system where he could pull air through a volume of liquid spirits and airstrip some of these offensive alcohols that are in just about every distilled spirit you drink, whether it be a cheap or whether it be a pretty good one. There are certain things that give alcohol an edge. And he was able to strip that out with his little invention that he had, and he actually went and got a patent on it. And that was in the 1990s. And then around 2000, I was in the oil and gas business here in Houston, and just happened to be over at his house one day and see this contraption sitting in his garage that had been in the family for all this time. I was like, "What are you going to do with that thing?" And he's like, "Oh, it was just something I was fiddling around with. I'm not really going to do anything with it." And I said, "I really think you're onto something, because you can really take an average distilled spirit and in 20 minutes give somebody a completely different taste profile, something that doesn't have a harsh burn to it." And I said, "Why don't you let me take that and I'll go see if I can figure out what's going on." And he said, "Have a great day." It just really wasn't what he wanted to piddle around with. So anyway, make a long story short, I took it to Texas A&M in College Station, and they in turn directed me to a PhD chemist in Houston that they said, "This gentleman, his name is Dr. Benjamin Mosier, he can take a picture of that before and after and drill down and give you down to the parts per billion what is in it before and what is in it after, and thereby telling you what you're removing." And so I go knock on this guy's door and take a wooden box in there and say, "Hey, look, here's whiskey, and we're going to pour it in, and here's a before sample." And we ran it for 20 minutes and we compared it. And he said, "That is really interesting." And he said, I can look at it and be able to tell you exactly what you're pulling out of here." So he did. He ran a GCMS on that, which is a gas chromatography mass spec.
You're right.
And he came back and he said, "Well, here's what's in it before. Here's what's in it afterwards." And then you could identify what was removed, and then you could tie those compounds to a flavor compound or an aroma. And what he said was, "Hey, you're removing some of the things like methanol or propanol or butanol in very minute amounts, by the way. These are not large amounts of product that we're removing. But we were able to, just remove some of those things." And he said, "But the downside is you are losing 10% of the good stuff, which is the ethyl alcohol, when you do it." Well, we were like, "Nah, that's not good." So I just asked him, "Can you help me figure out how to retain the good stuff and remove some of the other?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I can figure that out." Well, unfortunately, my father passes away about a year later, and I just put it on the back burner. I said, "I'm not going to do it. It was kind of our deal, and it was unexpected."
Right.
So about in 2007 is when Dr. Mosier called me and said, "Look, I'm fixing to retire." He was about 85 years old at the time. "I'm fixing to call it quits, and I really want your project to be my last exit." And I said, "I would love for it to be your last exit." So I kind of switched from oil and gas and said, "Hey, let's do this. What do you need?" He said, "I need a lab and I need this equipment and da 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 da." So we built a lab for him, stacked it up, and they went to work in '07. And the goal of the project then was to see if we could take an average vodka and in 20 minutes convert it into something that was much more palatable. So take a cheap, see if we can make it into something a little bit better. That was the original goal of the project.
And Ricky, I'm going to stop right there because we try not to assume any knowledge on our audience. And like I said before the show, I'm not that big of a drinker myself. The difference between a very, very inexpensive vodka versus one that is top shelf, I was always under the impression that was something that, it was the amount of refinement, the amount of filtering and filtration that it goes through, either once or twice and, through a dirty sock or, a dozen times through very nice high grade filters. And really that's what you're trying to do. But like, why, the 20-minute kind of time span limit that you're putting on yourself, was that also an important part of the whole equation? Because I guess you could take days or hours or days to filter this thing a number of times, but you really tried to make sure it was under a time limit.
Yes, sir, we did. Well, there was a couple of things. Number one, anytime you distill vodka or anything, a distilled spirit, let's say, there's associated losses that go along with that. So in the case of a vodka, everyone starts with what they call 190 or 192 proof neutral grain spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's produced by the big boys. That's NGP, Archer Daniels, Midland. A lot of these companies produce that massive quantities. And then the craft distillers will buy that. And then they have their own distillation process they go through, and then maybe a filtration process they go through before they cut it and put it into a bottle at 80 proof. So if I'm a distiller and I buy that neutral grain spirit, if I throw it into a distillation column to further purify or rectify that spirit, there's an associated loss that goes along with that. There's a lot of energy input that goes into that. There's a lot of labor cost that goes into that. And it does take a lot of time. So our goal was to, instead of filtering and further distillation, can we bypass that additional rectification step and filtration and run it through a process and not have to go through all that and not have the losses? We were trying to remove what we wanted to remove in a vodka without losing the ethyl alcohol.
And again, sorry for stepping on you there, but this is my question to whenever we have someone on the show that is promising to, not turn the entire industry upside down, but bring something new to the industry. I always like to ask, why hasn't this been done before? Was this, strictly a new idea that you and your chemists were really kind of doing groundbreaking work? Is this something truly innovative, or is this something that was kind of not very cost effective and you found a way to bring that down? I mean, what do you think were the major hurdles that really led you to this distillation process, the or at least the polishing technology?
I would say that I don't know of anyone that is doing what we're doing. I have no idea of anybody doing that. There are some companies out there that are playing around with some filtration systems and things like that, but it's nothing at all like what we're using today. I'm not sure why the industry. It's almost like this is the way we've done it for years. So why change? It just works.
It's a selling point, whether it's like Jim Beam or something like that. They're like, we've been doing this for 130 years. Tradition is strong, blah, blah, blah. And then tequila is kind of the same way. I think that you're in an industry that is very caught up in tradition, like you just said. And I got to imagine that coming from oil and gas, we've had some companies on the show that are very, very innovative when it comes to extraction and processing of oil and things like that. You come from an industry that just embraces technology like none like I've ever seen. So you're bringing something new to the table just by your background.
No doubt about it. And I've done that in the oil and gas business as well. We've taken some very innovative technology to a particular process within a refinery that they had been doing for 50 plus years. And when we took this innovative technology to them, they were like, come on, man, I've been doing this for my entire life. That'll never work. Or, hey, our system works great the way it is today. Why do I need to change? And once we showed them, and, in that particular case, Chevron was the first one to put our technology into their refinery. Once it proved itself out, man, everybody in the world started coming to us. So innovation is, there's a lot of industries out there that just put up a wall to innovation because it's something they feel very comfortable with. They've been doing it for a long time. Like you said, it's a selling point in many cases. We're not really just turning over the industry. We are just simply providing them another tool in the toolbox. So you still need the distillation systems. You still need the barrel for aging. We're not replacing anything and telling them, you don't have to do it the way you've been doing it all these years. We're just giving them another tool to help them create a better taste profile, or in some cases, just something different. You may have, Ben's whiskey on the shelf, but everyone's looking to put an additional bottle on the shelf. Well, I can take something you're making today, Ben's whiskey, and in 20 minutes hand you something that's totally different that may be Ben's special reserve. So again, we're not disrupting in such a way that we're just saying, you don't need to do anything you're doing today. No, we're not. We do not do that. We just go in and say, look, we're another tool. We're going to help you create something completely different. And guess what? We're going to do it with something you're making today.
That's and really that could be the goal, because just having that technology and being able to, I guess, refine it just that little bit more. And your promise, and the technology that you're putting forward, less energy, 20% more volume, things like that. That's something that I would assume, and you probably talk to the distilleries more than I do, but they would find that very attractive. I guess I'm trying to think in my head of any downsides. Like, is maybe implementing your polishing technique, cost prohibitive? Hopefully you've been able to keep the cost down.
Yes, we have. And so the additional cost to go from A to B, there's two points to this. Number one, what we have done is created a business model where we build the equipment, we install the equipment into the distiller's facility, and it's a pay-as-you-go. A lot of these craft distillers don't have the cash. They're trying to start up a company. They don't have a lot of free cash, and they've already spent a ton on equipment. So what we do is we license the technology to them, and it's a pay-as-you-go. And so they pay us a royalty based on production. That royalty usually ends up hitting them for about 40 to 50 cents per bottle. Well, if you think about it, that's a very inexpensive impact to get what they're getting. If I could, if I could put another bottle on the shelf, what are my choices today as a distiller? Well, I could leave it in the barrel another 2 years and sell a 6-year instead of a 4-year whiskey. Mm-hmm. Or I could take Persedo's technology and create a different profile and put another bottle on the shelf. And for 40 to 50 cents a bottle, it's a very doable deal.
Absolutely. And actually, and part of the interview here that we set up, and Allison was so nice to kind of work with me behind the scenes to set this up as well. We were sent a package from Persedo to try some of this. Try it here on the air. I'm trying to think back, and I've maybe drank on the air maybe like twice, and I've been doing this for about 8 years. So this will be like number 3. Not a very big drinker, definitely not doing work, but hey, this is part of work. And by the way, if you would like to, Ricky, talk about how I should go about this. And by the way, included in the container with the different samples, for those watching the video portion, we have a control and a polish of the vodka, first of all, so control polish, and then also of the bourbon. And there's this whole sheet here telling you how to taste, how to smell it, and then kind of cleanse your palate, that kind of thing. But let's just say for the average listener out there, if they wanted to maybe give us an introduction into truly appreciating the difference in taste of liquor, how would you recommend best noting, just to everyone's palate, best noting the difference? So you mentioned start with the polished and then try something else, but please go ahead and explain.
Mm-hmm. So what we do here when someone comes in for a tasting is we always recommend they taste the polished first. And when you do that, just take us, you don't need a whole lot, obviously. We're not shooting or anything like that. So just take a little bit on the palate. And we always instruct people to let the distilled spirit rest on your palate. Let your palate take in the flavors. Mm-hmm. And I even roll it around. I don't swish it like mouthwash, but I let it just kind of roll around so I get a good coating of my palate. And then swallow or spit. Some tasters prefer to spit because they don't want to drink during the day. But anyway, once you do that,
yeah, I just did exactly what you just said. That's yeah, I feel that.
So you got a good flavor of that one. Did you try was that the polish?
That was the polish first, absolutely. The bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you take the next one, just do it the same way, and just try to notice the difference. And in what we just talked about, what we're trying to accomplish is creating a different taste profile for you.
And just sorry to cut in, but my history with bourbon, not very good from what I can remember, but it's it usually hits you like as soon as it hits your tongue. It's kind of a bitter taste. It's and you mentioned kind of like let it rest on your tongue and swirl it around a bit, and I noticed that it gave you that warm sensation. It's definitely an alcoholic beverage, but at the same time, mm-hmm. it didn't give you that I got to get this either down my throat or out of my mouth. It was smooth. I know no other word for it.
Nice.
Smooth. Nice.
So when you take when you take the control, I do it the same way, and I'll let you do it, and then you can tell me what you know.
I have it right here in my hand. I'm giving my second. I'm sorry. I'm giving myself a second to kind of think over that one, and okay. And here we go. We're gonna try the other one.
All right.
Oof. Yeah, that's especially, I'm not, again, I'm not an expert taster, but kind of like in the roof of my mouth and the back of my throat, it's much more aromatic, much harsher, and definitely leaves a much stronger aftertaste as well.
Yeah. So what we like to say that we try to accomplish in a broad class of distilled spirits is that, along with the taste of whiskey and tequila or rum or whatever, there is a given sting or a burn that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. And you're normally fighting through the burn to get to the flavors. So the burn hits you right off the bat, and then maybe you'll taste something. And what we try to do is push that burn to the side and let the flavors come through so that the flavors are the first thing you taste, and the burn is just a second thought.
I definitely have picked up on that. And by the way, kind of chemically speaking, I notice here, for anyone watching the video portion, watching me take these shots, there's also, reports that you've put together of kind of the before and afters for a tequila sample, a White Dog Tennessee Rye sample, a Kentucky bourbon sample, which is probably what I just tried. Yeah. You're I guess you're kind of backing this up not with just, oh, this is and this happens in so many industries. Let's just say like headphones, for example, or speakers. They're like, oh, this is so warm and it's a nice round sound. Like someone described sound to me as like round. I was like, I don't know what that means. You're not being really obtuse about this. You're backing this up with a report that people can look at and analyze.
Yes, sir. We do that, and also those reports are done by third-party analytics. We send the samples out. Those are very expensive reports to obtain because it's a very sensitive and detailed report that we get. Sensitive machines and detailed report that we get from a world-renowned expert in taste and aroma that does work for lots of food companies. And so instead of us doing it here, we've got the equipment. We can do it ourselves, but we don't do that. We send that off and we ask for them to not only analyze it, but also to give their feedback on what it is that we did to the spirit that they looked at, and kind of wrap up with some taste and aroma qualities that we improved or removed or whatever. So yeah, they're pretty detailed analytics.
Yeah, and I can definitely tell, you've put a lot of work into this. And by the way, I mentioned there the bourbon, the rye, and the tequila that you have analyzed. But of course, we have vodka sitting here next to us, and I believe I was given the option of like 4 different ones to choose from, to kind of help with this interview. And I wanted to ask you, which would you kind of say maybe Persedo is, maybe either best for, or what spirits do you work with?
Right now, we're working with bourbons, vodka, and gin.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do anything with tequila. We've done lots of testing with tequila, but in order for you to be part of that production process, equipment needs to be located down there, and it's never been. It's just too much. We got way more on our plate right here in the good old US of A than try to expand internationally right now. We're just not there yet. But bourbons include bourbons and rye and gin and a vodka. It's probably the 4 most popular things we tinker with here at Persedo.
And I guess this, and poking around your website here, you mentioned that you built the lab. You had the gentleman there helping with you, the gas chromatography, mass spectrometry. And I'm sure I'm starting to slur my words, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But we're. I definitely should have ate something before we did this interview, but hey, it's going to be fine. So you mentioned that you built a lab, you staffed it, and you bought all the equipment. I see here that you're actually offering that for other, I guess you're kind of like leasing that technology and those services to other companies. Do you think that, even beyond the polishing technique that we've been talking about, getting kind of like we said, away from the traditional and into the innovative and into the, I guess, kind of the chemical level? I'm sure that many alcohol companies have been working on this, but you're taking it to, I guess, the craft distilleries. Is that something you're seeing a lot of interest in?
We are. A lot of the craft distilleries are not large enough to warrant their own systems, so some just send us the product, we polish it, and send it back to them. So we're just part of their production. But if it's a large enough distiller that could, let's say they're doing 20,000 cases a year, is a very good size craft distiller, or large medium sized distiller. Mm-hmm. That we can warrant the investment in the equipment, because the equipment is very expensive. It's not anything cheap, but if they have enough production and I can earn my payback over time and help them grow, it makes sense. It makes sense to make the investment in the equipment. It's a fully automated system, by the way. It's you have a mechanical skid system, and then also a control system that goes along with it. So it's a fully automated process where you simply walk up to a touch screen, enter in the parameters that you want, how much you want to produce, etc. Hit start and walk away and go have a cup of coffee and come back, and it's processed and sitting in a new tote for you.
Very, very cool. Yeah, and actually, my brother is actually getting his PhD in chemistry out in Colorado, so he would be very interested in this kind of thing.
Ah,
And yeah,
nice.
it's I'm not the most chemically I guess kind of aware of the family, but I got to say that he did go through a phase where hard liquor and kind of either distilling at home or just trying to figure out what was different about these. It was very interesting to him, and I'm glad to see that other people are taking interest and you're able to actually turn this into not only a business but also kind of a service, and it really sounds like a passion project for you as well.
It is 100% passion. That's what's driven me over the last, since '07. Many times I wanted to quit because I'd go into the lab and we had made absolutely zero progress and we weren't figuring it out and it wasn't working. And, you start spending a whole lot of money on an R&D program, and really quickly it can get out of hand. So there was a lot of downtime, where you just like, oh man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And but when you finally get to that point, and you figure it out. And look, there were folks that are a lot smarter than I am that figured this out. I don't take any of the credit. These guys were absolutely critical to the process and developing it and optimizing it. And I had engineers working on scaling technology up. We spent 2 years just scaling technology, So yes, it worked in a lab and it worked great on 1.5 liters, but geez, how do you commercialize it? Well, you got to have engineers that are process engineers and mechanical engineers, electrical engineers that could scale this up and build a system that would, do 1,000 gallons and not just 1.5 liters. So there was a lot of that as well. It was a long, drawn out process, but now we're up and running, and we've got a facility. I've got a beautiful tasting room. We invite distillers to bring their spirits here. We've got a bench demonstration system, so they come here or they send it. We just received some whiskey out of Tennessee. They send it to us. We process it and send it back to them and let them do the before and after. Or we'd love to have them here. They come here and they sit in the tasting room and we do some tastings there and demonstrate the technology. And then I can take them out into the shop and show them the full blown, scaled up version.
Absolutely. And we were actually just looking at that. You guys are, no offense, but if the accent wasn't enough to give it away, you guys are based out of Texas. And I actually, do travel there for, kind of for leisure. And I was talking to my friend there, and yeah, you guys aren't too far. So I don't want to give you any hard dates or any any kind of confirmation, but we might be in the area, and if we are, we're certainly going to check it out. But that's just me personally. You mentioned a tasting room. If listeners want to find out more, where can they go? What can they do? Even beyond just the tasting room, because we are a national show and not everyone's going to be in Texas. What's the best place, or where's the best place to find more information?
It would be at our website at Persedo.com, Persedo.com. And on there is our address, phone numbers, emails. My email address is rford@Persedo.com. But that's probably the best way to learn more information. And our chemist is always available to sit and talk and go into great detail about the technology and why it does what it does.
Perfect. And obviously,
happy to.
Yeah, and obviously, for the like I said, for the everyday listener, I hope that this was a very interesting and kind of like an inside look into the kind of thing. But hey, you never know. We might have reached some distillers out there that we're actually based out of Asheville, North Carolina, which not so much about spirits, but about beer and craft beers and things like that. Asheville is
Sure.
very well known for that industry. But hey, maybe hopefully we've reached some
Yes.
some very interested ears, and yeah, it sounds like your polishing technique is like you said, it's scalable, it's effective for anyone from like small, medium, and all the way up. You have something very unique here, and I guess my question to you would be, Ricky, where do you hope to kind of see Persedo end up? Are you hoping that every distillery that produces a certain amount of volume has one of these on their production floor? Do you see this as this is our facility and we're going to be the processing hub for all these different distilleries? Where do you see this ending up?
So a couple of things. Number one, for those distillers that are large enough to warrant their own system, I'd love to see that spread across. We're starting right here in Texas. We're focused on Texas to try to get the technology, introduced. So that's one. But second, we're talking to several folks about setting up hubs in areas that could service, a group of distilled spirit producers. So hubs to service an area, as well as equipment placed in distilleries that are large enough to warrant it.
I gotcha. So, Ricky, I'll go ahead and let you have the kind of the last thought here. If we missed anything or glossed over any areas, did we forget to mention anything?
I don't think so. I think we covered it. You did an awesome job for not being a hardcore drinker.
Thank you. And I think that's something that you should really highlight is that people don't drink just to get drunk. Like there is a long history of people who really just enjoy who enjoy alcohol. It's the taste. You mentioned you did this with your father. I'm sure that a lot of people out there have that same kind of passion with their fathers as well, that, hey, they're probably the one who introduced them to their first glass of bourbon. And hey, you're looking to just make that better over time.
That's right.
Right. So,
I agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you do. So for everyone watching the video portion, you can see I'm starting to sweat. Yeah, I did not. I took both of those shots right to the head, and it's it's going to be fun. But Ricky, I did want to say thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Thank you for taking the time, and hey, looking forward to it. If you have any if you have anything different, anything new that you want to come on the show to talk about, open invitation, please come back on.
That sounds like a plan.
All right, perfect.
And if you're ever in the area, make sure you stop by and say hello.
We certainly will. So everyone, once again, Persedo, Persedo.com. We're going to have a link at Computer America in the show notes. It should just be that simple. And once again, everyone, Ricky Ford, he is president of Persedo, and all around, just a great interview. So Ricky, thanks so much. And until next time, have a great day.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, have a great one. Bye-bye. And everyone, now we're going...
Bye-bye.
Yeah, perfect. And we're going to go ahead and continue on with Computer America here. So everyone, we're going to do computer and technology news. Why don't we go ahead and continue on here? So everyone, here we go. Computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Oh my God, I am so flush. And you may notice that obviously we did the bourbon. That was, I don't want to say that's the bad call. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we did that. But at the same time, you may have noticed we didn't do the vodka at all. which, if I'm being honest, if I had to do the vodka, this show may have had to have been cut short. But hey, everyone, we're here, we're good. We may slur our speech a little bit, but overall, let me just say, great interview, and I'm happy that we did that. So everyone, here we go. I think that our first story that we're going to do is actually about, well, YouTube. Yep, you guessed it, YouTube, and we're going to be talking about, well, YouTube and how YouTube ads of 100 top brands fund climate misinformation. That's a weird title. Let's go ahead and get into this. And this was a very popular topic, so let's go ahead and get into this. So they say, and this is by the way coming to us from The Guardian, saying that some of the biggest companies in the world are funding climate misinformation by advertising on YouTube. And that's according to an activist group of Oz. I can already tell this is going to be a little bit slanted because it's not even so much that companies are purposely doing this. Really, anything with YouTube or even beyond that, even anything with Google, everything is done automatically. Everything is done by algorithm, and that's something that's, you can say this is a problem, and you'd be right, but it's not malicious. It's more negligence is the bigger issue at hand. So let's just go into this, not assuming any kind of malicious behavior on the part of these companies, but more a negligence in making sure that their company upholds a certain set of, well, values. And that's something that people really do expect of companies, even if you don't agree. Companies that are ethical are certainly more preferable, I guess, to consumers. It's been studied before. Certain brands, certain companies, people will shop at them exclusively because they feel they are more ethical and preferred. So they said that the group was found that more than 100 brands had adverts running on YouTube videos on the site that were actively promoting climate misinformation. The brands, including Samsung, L'Oreal, and Decathlon, and I'm sure, like they said, 100 plus top brands were doing this, were unaware that their adverts were being played before and during the video, saying that this is not about free speech. This is about the free advertising YouTube is giving to factually inaccurate videos that risk confusing people about one of the biggest crises of our time. YouTube should not feature, suggest, promote, advertise, or lead users to information. And, this is something that this has become more of a conversation since we took our break, since we come back. We haven't talked about it in about a month, and, that's something that we should definitely touch on. This idea that tech companies have to be the arbiters of proper information. Facebook had a very notable falling out with Snopes. Snopes is, I would say, one of the leading organizations on the internet trying to promote real and factual information. And Snopes actually had to pull away from Facebook, saying, guys, we appreciate the money. We appreciate what it is that you're doing for our organization, but the task that you have created to fact check your platform is so impossible. We cannot, in good conscience, stand behind Facebook. Snopes and Facebook split ways. Yeah, it certainly happened. Twitter, even beyond this, Twitter, and this has to do a little bit with politics, but Twitter actually banned all political advertising on Twitter. I think or at least they're going to 2 or 3 months before the election. And of course, there's a question of, when are they going to do it, or when are they going to do it? How are they going to uphold this? Actually, I think Twitter actually banned all political advertising, and then I think it's going to be YouTube that's going to ban it for 2 months. But anyways, these companies are trying to find the best way to, first of all, be companies, take in money, deliver a product, and have the best profit that you can. Because all these are for profit. They are not, the Associated Press. They are not NPR. They are not a public service. They are definitely a for-profit company. And then you have to straddle that line of, do we take the money that is delivered onto us, or do we kind of pull back and just say, we can't make sure that everything that we're giving away is foolproof. Boy, bourbon burps, not best. Now, I will say though that that's probably a much safer route that Twitter took to completely do away with at least political advertising. Admittedly, there's other kinds of advertising that many others would find just as objectionable, but it was very comforting. Not comforting, but it was very nice to see that Twitter said, we don't have the resources to properly monitor this. Instead of Facebook saying, don't worry, we'll do better, Twitter shut the whole thing down. And honestly, Facebook should have probably had a similar response, because clearly they can't monitor their own platform either. Now, to continue on with the story, and this is again with YouTube and the global warming, climate change, climate manipulation, blah, blah, blah. They said that it found that 16 of the top 100 videos on the first term contained misinformation, as did 8 of the videos found under climate change and 21 under climate manipulation. YouTube has previously taken steps to protect its users from anti-vaccine and conspiracy theories, but has not acted with equal force against broader misinformation and disinformation content. So they mentioned that they call on YouTube to implement new policies, and that they should. These are the points that they want, and we'll talk about if these are actually doable or feasible. They said that include climate misinformation in its borderline content policy, which limits the algorithmic distribution of videos, but do not reach the bar required to fully remove them from the site. I think that's part of it, is that you don't have to, at least in their mind, you don't have to remove the videos. You just have to call them dubious. You have to say that, by calling them questionable or at least not verified in some manner, borderline content, they won't be recommended to as many people, and the spread of misinformation will slow down naturally. Demonetize misinformation, ensuring that such content does not include advertising and is not financially incentivized. YouTube should start immediately with that option for advertisers to exclude their ads from videos with climate misinformation, which would go along with borderline content as well. Not only does it limit the amount of exposure that a video would get to the general audience, companies can also say, we don't want our ads displayed on borderline content. We saw, kind of the same reaction with supposed white supremacist videos on YouTube, and we saw that certain companies were, like I said, it's all algorithmic. That you were getting these unfortunate pairings of really insensitive and videos that would incite people, mixed with ads that were just, kind of not the best match for the video. But it was happening anyways, because, their YouTube had to be very reactionary to that. So the next one that they want is work with independent fact checkers to inform users who have seen or interacted with verifiably false or misleading information. That one seems completely impossible, considering that, so the spread of misinformation happens so fast. Once that's out of the bottle, it's out there. It becomes, in someone's mind, that becomes common knowledge. It no longer becomes, a dubious fact. It no longer becomes an opinion. It becomes, well, this is the way the world works. And sitting them down, has YouTube at a point, an independent fact checker saying, hey, Ben, this is Steve. He's from Snopes, and he's going to set you straight. Probably not. So the best way to get at this is not to kind of retroactively respond to it, but to stymie the spread of the misinformation in the first place. So the last point that they want is provide transparency to researchers by releasing data showing how many views are driven to misinformation by its own recommendation algorithm. YouTube is not going to do that whatsoever. YouTube is not in any way ever going to open up their secret sauce to even researchers to really find out what's happening, how's it being driven, and how many people are actually being affected by this. It's it's probably not happening. So in a statement, YouTube said that the report had its own transparency problems, saying that we can't speak to Avaz's methodology or results, and our recommendation system are not designed to filter or demote videos or channels based on specific perspectives. YouTube has a strict ad policy that governs where ads are allowed to appear, and we give advertisers tools to opt out of content that don't align with their brand. We've also significantly invested in reducing recommendations of borderline content and harmful misinformation and raising up authoritative voices on YouTube. So essentially what they're saying there is that, and this is YouTube's response, they're working on it. There's tinkering behind the scenes that are doing a lot of what they're saying. I guess the question is, how do you determine that, let's say, Ben sitting in front of a camera making a video is going to be any different? Or, how do you parse through that video and determine that what Ben is saying is verifiably false? That everything Ben is saying is not only fake, but also harmful for society at large. And then if I happen to be super popular, which I am, but if you happen to be super popular, let's say that the video gets 1 million views, how do you really dissuade that? Because obviously 1 million views, YouTube wants to make money. They're going to put ads on the videos that people are watching. It's not just enough about only putting ads on the right video. You have to put ads on the popular videos. It's parsing through the information that YouTube traditionally has not been for. YouTube has been an open platform. They let a lot of people do what they want. And I know if you're super into YouTube culture, YouTube's been taking some very questionable stances. But traditionally that's the way it's been. So now, in 2019 alone, the consumption on authoritative news publisher channels grew by 60%. This is again from YouTube. As our system appears to have done in the majority of cases in this report, we prioritize authoritative voices for millions of news and information queries and surface information panels on topics prone to misinformation to provide users with context alongside their content. Which is really, I don't know. I don't want to say that YouTube has a responsibility to take down all climate change denial videos. They don't. They do have a responsibility to monitor their own platform. But at the same time, where does personal responsibility lie on the ability to choose what you watch and what information you not only view, because it's one thing to view information. I can say Computer America is the best, but to actually internalize that and really truly believe it in your heart, really accept Computer America as a premier news source, that's something that you decide on a person by person basis. I can be bombarded with fake information all day long. If I don't actually take it to heart, that's, that again is a personal responsibility. So it's muddied. I like I said, if companies can't truly monitor the systems that they're putting in place, they can't just say we're providing a platform, how that platform is used is not our responsibility. I'm less and less for that stance. Look at Facebook, look at Twitter, look at YouTube, look at any social media site. The spread of misinformation is a problem. I think that personal responsibility does play a large part in it, but if there's not even like a baseline, if there's not a baseline, which Twitter itself had kind of discovered, if there's not a baseline of fact that we can all agree on, maybe they should not be trying to spread that or monitor that. So the proper response to this, I have no idea. But there you go. So once again, from The Guardian, and it's a very interesting topic and a very interesting idea. Let's go ahead and continue talking about some of these. And by the way, Okay, so just real quick, a very unfortunate passing, but so often people in tech, the biggest names. Like, really think about when technology first started to surface. And I'm talking like the personal computer. I'm talking about things that we use every day: the fax machine, the printer. The people who created these things are still around today. The inventor of the World Wide Web is still a very outspoken, gentleman in the tech space. The titans of tech are still alive, but at the same time, they won't be forever, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, we have to announce a passing that the inventor of the laser printer, yes, the laser printer, unfortunately passed away today. Mr. Gary Starkweather dies at 81. That's right, saying that he originally received pushback from his employer Xerox, but his invention eventually became nearly ubiquitous in every office and every home. So just a little bit about him, saying that so his wife Joyce mentioned that it was due to leukemia. He died in Orlando, Florida, and he was 81 years old. He said that he was working as a junior engineer in the offices of the Xerox Corporation in Rochester, New York. In 1964, several years after the company had introduced the photocopier to American office buildings, when he began working on a version that could transmit information between two distant copiers so that a person could scan a document in one place and send that copy to someone in another place. He decided that this could best be done with the precision of laser, another recent invention which can use amplified light to transfer images onto paper. But then he had a better idea. Rather than sending grainy images of paper documents, what if he used the precision of laser to print more refined images straight from a computer? Which today seems obvious, but back then, innovative. Let's see. So he said that what you have to do is not just look at the marble, you have to see the angle in the marble. Because his idea ventured away from the company's core business, copiers, his boss hated it. And at one point, he said that the entire team would be laid off if he did not stop working on the project. And boy, good thing he didn't. Saying that if you have a good idea, you can bet someone else doesn't think it's good. Saying that we still use the same fundamental engine to print billions of pages a day, and it was all Gary's idea. So it goes into a bit about his history and so on and so forth, but and just to wrap this up, saying that the first successful product sold by Xerox in the late 1970s cost more than $5,000 to manufacture. He then held up a circuit board and that drove the printers of the late 1990s. It cost $38, making his product accessible to nearly any home or business. And saying that a little work takes you a long way. Even as technologists, when we think we're on the edge, we are not on the edge. So, inventor of the laser printer unfortunately passed away. And there you go. Like I said, many people in the tech industry are still alive today. Even the most fundamental inventions for technology, as we see it, are still alive. And we hope that many of them do for a long, long time to come. So let's go ahead and continue on here. I'm trying to find any. Okay, maybe this one. Just as we continue on here, we have like a minute left here on the program. Let's wrap it up with DRAM. Breakthrough puts us one step closer to the instant on PC. Which, by the way, folks, if you have not tried some of these, M.2 SSD hard drives, they're as close as you're going to get to current instant on computers. But it's pretty cool. Saying after all these years, we're still not at the point where PCs turn on instantaneously. Waking from sleep or hibernation can take anywhere from a short while to what feels like an eternity. And what he means by that is anywhere from 3 to 12 seconds. Or even all the way up to like 40, 50 seconds if you have a traditional hard drive. But Oh my God, we have like 30 seconds. I'm not going to be able to do this. We'll include it in the show notes, everyone, if you want to find out. But essentially, they're calling it UK3-V memory. Non-volatile memory is not new by any stretch, but the key differentiator here is speed, saying that it's fast enough to replace DRAM and uses a fraction of the power. So, yeah, and it goes into a little bit of why this matters, but essentially they're saying that the gist of it is that the UK3-V memory is both non-volatile and extremely power efficient. It uses 1% of the energy of today's DRAM and NAND flash memory requires to write data. So that means that, hey, if you need just a little bit of power to get this thing going, it could be just what you're looking for. So everyone, music in the background right there means that we're just about done for today. I finally stopped sweating. So yeah, again, huge thanks to Persedo for coming on the program here, talking about this, and having a fun interview with us. It was very interesting to talk about spirits, distilling, liquor, that kind of thing. Not our usual topic, but it's always a lot of fun. So everyone, until tomorrow, thank you so much. We should have Ralph Bond, the one, the only Ralph Bond here on the program to talk all about all the latest stories. Everyone, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.